Good evening, 6th grade. This is Miss Cunningham from Harlem East with your nightly Audible file to support you with your homework. Tonight's homework assignment is a homework reading titled Declaring Independence. And the central question is, to what extent was the Declaration of Independence a call for liberty? I will give you 30 seconds to have the document open. Awesome. I'm on page 1. The title is Declaring Independence. The following text was adapted from the history textbook History Alive, the United States Through Industrialism, and an article published by the History Channel. The battles of Lexington and Concord marked the start of the fighting that would lead to independence from Great Britain. Tensions had been building for many years between residents of the 13 colonies and the British authorities, particularly in Massachusetts. On the night of April 18, 1775, hundreds of British troops marched from Boston to the nearby town of Concord in order to seize a weapons cache, or a collection of stored or hidden items, in this case weapons. Paul Revere and others on horseback sounded the alarm, and, as a result, colonial militiamen began mobilizing to intercept the Redcoat column. A confrontation on the Lexington town green started off the fighting, and soon the British were hastily retreating under intense fire. 30 seconds to jot. Five, four. The day after the clashes, horseback riders galloped through the colonies with news of the barbarous murderers of innocent militiamen. Barbarous murderers of innocent militiamen. Teachers mess up too. Most Americans were deeply shocked. More urgently than ever, they debated what the colonies should do about the trouble with Great Britain. The choices were clear enough. The colonies could declare their independence, or they could continue with petitions and protests or formal requests. The second choice would keep the colonies at peace, but at what cost to the colonists' freedom? 30 seconds, go. Ten seconds. On May 10, 1775, the Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia. By then, New England militia had amassed around Boston. The first question facing Congress was who should command this army. John Adams proposed that Congress instead create a continental army made up of troops from all of the colonies. To lead this army, Adams nominated a gentleman whose skill and experience as an officer, whose great talents and excellent universal character would unite the colonies better than any other person alive. That man was George Washington of Virginia, who had distinguished himself in the French and Indian War. The delegates agreed. They unanimously elected Washington Commander-in-Chief of the new Continental Army. 30 seconds, shot. Ten seconds. Meanwhile, militiamen near Boston made plans to fortify or strengthen or reinforce two hills that overlook the city, Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill. On the night of June 16, 1775, Israel Putnam led a few hundred men up Breed's Hill. In 4 hours of furious digging, they built a fort on top of the hill. The fort worried British General William Howe. Howe ordered an immediate attack. 2,000 British troops formed two lines at the base of Breed's Hill. At Howe's order, the Redcoats marched up the slope. 30 seconds shot. Ten seconds. As the lines moved closer, Putnam ordered his men, "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes." Only when the British were almost on top of the hill did the militiamen or colonists pull their triggers. The red lines, or lines of British soldiers, broke and fell back in confusion. The British regrouped and attacked again. Once more, the Americans stopped their advance. On their third attack, the Redcoats or British finally took the hill, but only because the Americans had used up all of the gunpowder they had and pulled back. This clash, which became known as the Battle of Bunker Hill, was short but very bloody. More than 1,000 British troops and nearly half that many Americans were killed or wounded. 30 seconds, go. Ten seconds. Nearly a year passed between the skirmishes at Lexington and Concord and the British retreat from Boston after Bunker Hill. During that time, there was little talk of independence. Most colonists still considered themselves loyal British subjects. Their quarrel was not with Great Britain itself, but with its policies toward the colonies. Many Americans pinned their hopes for peace on King George. In July of 1775, the Second Continental Congress sent a petition or request to George III asking him to end the quarrel, end this conflict. John Adams called the petition an olive branch. Olive tree branches are an ancient symbol of peace. By the time the petition reached London, however, the king had declared the colonies to be open and avowed rebellion. He ordered his ministers to bring the traitors to justice. 30 seconds, go. Ten seconds. The final break. The Second Continental Congress appointed a committee to write a declaration or a formal statement of independence should they vote for independence. The task of drafting the Declaration of Independence went to the committee's youngest member, 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. 30 seconds, go. On July 1st, 1776, the Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia's State House to debate independence. By noon, the temperature outside had soared into the 90s, and a thunderstorm was gathering. Inside the State House, emotions were equally hot and stormy. By the end of that day, the issue of whether to dissociate or disconnect or separate from Great Britain was still undecided. The next day was cooler and therefore calmer. On July 2nd, all but one of the 13 colonies voted for independence. New York cast no vote. 30 seconds, go. Ten seconds. No delegate was more excited about the colony's decision than John Adams. He wrote to his wife Abigail, "The second day of July will be celebrated by succeeding generations with pomp and parade, with shrews or shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other from this time forevermore." Adams was wrong about the date that it would be commemorated or recalled and shown respect for as America's birthday, but only because Congress decided to revise Jefferson's declaration. The delegates liked most of what they read, except for a passage on slavery. Jefferson had charged King George, or accused King George, of violating the sacred rights of life and liberty of a distant people, here being the Africans, by carrying them into slavery. Almost no one in the Congress accepted this passage. Southerners feared that it would lead to demands for free slaves. Enslaved Africans provided much of the labor used on the Southern farms. Northerners worried that New England merchants who profited or made money from the slave trade would be offended and reject the document. Instead of this, the passage was just removed. 30 seconds, go. Ten seconds. On July 4th, after the two-day debate over its final language, the delegates approved the Declaration of Independence. When they signed the document, they pledged to support independence with our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Every signer understood that he was committing an act of treason against Great Britain. If the new nation failed to win its freedom, each of them could very well end up swinging from a hangman's rope. That means killed for treason. Knowing this, Benjamin Franklin told the delegates, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately." That is to say, we must now work together, or surely we will die. 30 seconds, go. Awesome. With the rest of your time, 6th grade, you're going to want to start to think and answer the central question: to what extent was the Declaration of Independence a call for liberty? I'm signing off now. If you have any questions, please reach out with a professional email. If not, I cannot wait to see and learn with you tomorrow. Goodbye.